you check the children.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And Jaime Fuego back in studio.
Yes,
so happy
indeed.
About that.
We're going to be knocking out a bunch of reviews here in a row, and we're going to be starting with the brand new release on Shudder, VHS Beyond. This is, I think, the sixth
one.
Yeah, the sixth VHS movie, and just to get right into it, I'll say that this is my favorite VHS that I've gotten in a long time, because I liked all but one of them. So I liked 4 of the 5 this time. Usually it's 2 or 3 of the 5. This one I definitely liked 4 of the 5. I wish that all 5 had been as on theme as it seems to want to be, but outside of that, I was a big fan of this one. One of the stories it didn't do much for me, but the other ones were really strong, in my opinion. I had a good time with this. The wraparound was a little bit weaker than the wraparounds in the past because it's kind of just barely a framing device. It's not like a story that we return to or anything like that, like it has been in the past. So that was a little bit different, but overall, I really enjoyed the film. How about you?
Yeah, I dug it too. As with any anthology, you've got kind of a mixed bag. Some are going to be stronger than others. There's like the third story, Skydivers, I think is probably my favorite. There's some cool creature design in that, as well as in a couple other installments. And you got decent talent too. Justin Long and I believe his brother Christian, where they co-wrote and co-directed one of the installments, and then the 5th one, Mike Flanagan wrote it. His wife directed it, Kate Siegel. So decent amount of talent. I don't think I was like over the moon enthused about any segment in particular, but I thought they were all very solid and serviceable. I didn't really think any were particularly weak. So
okay, fair enough. We can just blast through kind of the quick stories. The first story was it looked like it was zombies in a building with cops blowing through them,
they were very zombie.
that is essentially what they were, but the reason for them being that way and the reveal of the creature at the end of the first segment, I loved. I absolutely loved it. It was one of the most unique creature designs that I've ever seen, and I absolutely was like, as soon as it came on screen, I was like, oh, that's cool.
And especially what it was
that's
doing,
so
too.
Cool. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, because the cops are there there's been a rash of like a bunch of babies being stolen.
Yep.
And there's a spot that they're going to infiltrate, and that's where they think, the perpetrators are hiding, and that's where you get the alien encounter aspect going down. And I really dug the creature design too, without almost like Alien Big Bird kind of thing, without getting too much into it. But it looked dope, man, and there's some solid gore in this and good makeup effects, as well going down with the, you get some decapitation, chainsaws, like all kinds of craziness in this. So it was fun.
And a lot of cool practical effects, like when you look into a hole, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, really, really cool stuff in that first one. I dug the hell out of it. It was a nice big surprise for me.
So this is where I gotta ask, was the second one your least favorite?
Yes, yeah, easily. Second one was my least favorite. Now let's say that there is a wraparound to this film, like there usually is with a VHS movie, but I gotta say, this, to my recollection, this is the least story full wraparound that we've ever gotten. It's literally just a series of interviews with some quote-unquote experts about alien phenomenon.
Yeah, and it was done by a Canadian documentarian. He's the one who filmed all those wraparound bits. So yeah.
So yeah, that is not as satisfying, because at the end there's no real story for that to wrap up in the wraparound.
Yeah, there's a reveal, but it's kind of
not super entertaining, not super payoffy. But getting into the second story, it's essentially about a Bollywood dancer and
Tara.
yeah, and it's the people around her that are trying to figure some stuff out, and it turns out that she is not quite what she seems. Without spoiling exactly what was going on, it is one of the 2 stories that doesn't fit the alien theme, which was a bummer, because the alien theme is very pronounced in the 3 stories and the wraparound.
Big time.
And the fact that they didn't do it for just story 2 and story 4 was a little strange.
Yeah, I can't seem to wrap my head around it either, man. Although I will say that once we get some gore going, in the payoff of this segment, I thought that was pretty satisfying.
Yeah, there is at least some entertainment to be had there. Yeah. I agree with that.
Kind of on the generic side, though. The thing that gives a distinctive flavor is the Bollywood aspect. There's a pretty nicely choreographed dance number early on once they get to the spot where these, like, ragtag renegade interview guys are trying to get this this discussion with this pop star, and it goes awry, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, it was well put together. The song wasn't even terrible. I have a soft spot for Bollywood, honestly, especially from some of my international film classes where we had to, like, really study everything that comes out of that part of the world. So I didn't. Once again, I mean, it was it didn't fit the theme, but it was fine. It was serviceable enough, and the gore redeemed it in a lot of ways for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Then we get to the third story, which was kind of the most infamous story. Well, this one and the fourth story are the ones that I heard mentioned out of the festival where it premiered.
Okay. Was it Fantastic?
Yeah, Fantastic Fest. Yep, where they premiered Terrifier 3 as well.
Okay.
And so this one is the story about skydivers, and basically their plane runs into some aliens, quite literally.
I think it's called Ride or Dive is what I think they called it, which is kind of a clever title.
Fair enough. And so, they this group of skydivers is left to try and survive their plane, essentially blowing up around them, and some of them, survive, and not all of them do. But
There's one bit with a parachute that was just
so aggressive.
Yeah, man.
So aggressive. The gore is awesome in this one.
It's really awesome in this one, actually. This was done by is it Justin Martinez? I forget, but he's part of Radio Silence, the guys behind Ready or Not, and Scream 5 and 6, and so
yeah. And then when they get to the ground, it turns out there's even more of an imminent threat to them.
Cool design with that creature as well.
Very unique, very unique. A little strange and unnecessarily overly designed, I think.
Maybe
after the fact,
and with all the powers it possesses, it was like it can kill you in all kinds of ways.
But like the fact that its back end looks like an old timey carriage, like you know what I mean? Like it's a deliberate decision. Like these things have trunk. You know what I mean? They fit.
Trunk in the trunk.
So yeah, it's but it's a very entertaining segment.
Yeah, and I like the finale too with what happens when dude gets to the truck. I'm not spoiling anything.
I do think that this is where the effects are most questionable in the movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
not the gore.
No, not the gore, but the creatures. The creatures are very, very CG. In this
very
one,
much.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's it's still a very entertaining segment.
Yeah, this is maybe my favorite, as I said at the beginning. So yeah.
The next one is called Fur Babies, and this one was done by Justin and Christian Long, brothers.
Yes.
I was not aware that Justin Long had a brother, but apparently he does. And not only that, but this one was also edited by the amazing Tom Newell, who was also the editor behind Dylan's New Nightmare. So yeah, very excited that he's worked on a lot of the VHS movies, if not all of them at this point. So I think maybe 2 and beyond, but I could be wrong. Forgive me, Tom, if I'm wrong. But this is another great example of why you're good at what you do, because Fur Babies, there's not a whole lot to it. But you make it really interesting, I think, with the editing and some choices to splice in some cool footage that makes you like, wait, what did I just see, kind of thing. Like I feel the editing was one of the strongest bits of this one. It is story light, though, very story light.
Yeah, I mean, because essentially you have a woman who runs, like a home to
a pet rehabilitation center. It looks like. Kind of thing.
But she also does taxidermy and various other things, and so a ethical treatment of animals organization is essentially
not necessarily PETA, but PETA.
Yeah, they have a different acronym or whatever. But so they go to investigate, and they've got cameras, and they have a dog, and she sniffs out what they're trying to do pretty quickly, and that's where, without spoiling too much, it was really ironic for Justin Long to be directing this because of what happens with a certain character, and because Justin Long was in Tusk, the whole people becoming animals sort of thing, which you have in without revealing too much, obviously. And it led to some pretty satisfying and relatively gnarly dispatching of people when another team comes to investigate what happened with the previous one. So I dug this. It's silly in concept, but I still enjoy it.
It is very silly in concept. I think fans of Tusk would be a big fan of this.
Yeah, that's what I just said, Tusk.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, shit. God, I was listening but not listening. I was thinking
about... Oh, my...
I'm so sorry.
And that's why I was saying it's ironic Justin Long to direct this, because it had similar DNA.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I want to make sure I mention this, and like I just zoned out at the wrong part. But no, so that's a good point, Fuego. Yeah, clearly we agree on that.
Yeah.
But no, it is a little over the top when it comes to certain things, but it's considering VHS is a found footage franchise, like they have to come up with certain ways to shoot this, and what's fun is a lot of it is shot from collar cams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which you see sometimes on TikTok or Instagram, where someone throws a GoPro on the collar of a cat and it goes roaming around the neighborhood and you see what it gets up to and stuff. It's that kind of vibe at times, but the pets are a little more aggressive in what they're doing.
Yeah, much more so.
So I like Fur Babies.
I do too.
I think it was a fun entry. It does have the most abrupt ending of any of them, though.
Yeah, with the mailman.
There's literally no, like, it's just like cuts away and then we're back to the wraparound. I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But
and I thought the lady was effectively creepy.
Yeah, I agree.
Good.
I agree. I thought she was good too. The last story is
with the biggest names associated. I would say,
it is written by Mike Flanagan. Yep, and is directed by his wife, Kate Siegel. And I actually was a big fan of this one outside of its visual presentation.
Yeah.
And that's only for part of it. I like the visual presentation up to a point.
Yeah.
But this story is interesting. It's about a alien fanatic, essentially, who has always wanted to see something, and she's filming herself out in the desert and stuff, and she finally gets an opportunity
talking to some
to
of the yokels around there, which is funny.
she gets an opportunity to get up close and personal when a ship lands, and she sneaks aboard. What's interesting is she's very scientific about what she's explaining before we get to that point, where
Even
she's
when
talking
she touches
about
the string too.
And it's
force her skin and everything.
If you've seen Interstellar, she kind of touches on the similar themes where if you are a traveler from Earth and you try and travel to the next livable system,
Like
only a
Andromeda
certain amount of time will pass for you, but exponentially more time will have passed on Earth in the meantime. And she talks about what it's like, to travel through space and how you'd have to be safe in the process and stuff like that. When she gets on the ship, she sees a bunch of stasis pods and everything, and then essentially this short is I won't ruin the payoff, but it's like, what happens when the ship starts to want to take off? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she has to try and escape and things like that. So I really enjoyed the short, except towards the end when there was supposed to be a big reveal.
Yeah.
They show it in such a way that I guess maybe they're trying to show what it would be like if the camera was actually in space and had all of that shit flashing against the lens for the whole time. And so it's really blurry and not really super visible, but that's a bit of a cop-out in me trying to explain it away.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. I'm annoyed that it looked that way.
Especially without spoiling stuff, because I was trying my damnedest during the finale of this without spoiling to really see what was happening.
It feels like they blurred the payoff.
Yeah.
Like the
Which
payoff
I really
you
wanted.
can't really see. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. And I totally understand that perspective. I just happen to like the setup as much as what the payoff could have shown us.
I even wanted to go on Wikipedia and read whatever the summary that's posted on there was, so maybe I would see what the pronounced theory seems to be about. I don't know if she was aging or being experimented on.
No. What was happening? So at one point when she's on there, she injures herself, and this alien nanite technology falls out of the ceiling. Yeah, and it heals her. So what it was doing though is they're using things in the elements around them to heal. And so when she constantly is, well, okay.
Let me. Where we have to dance around.
I will. Well, let me. Yeah, I'll tell Fuego after the review.
Okay. There you go.
But there's a reason for why things happen the way they happen towards the end. I just wish we saw it better. And that leads us to the end of the wraparound, which is not much to write home about at all.
Where they try to give some payoff, because it all centers around the fact that there was this house from was it a Korean family? They were immigrants, and they came over and they were very successful after relocating to the States, and they bought this big property and good investment, so on and so forth. But the patriarch and the matriarch died. House is left to the oldest son, and it's how he believed that there was some sort of otherworldly presence, whether extraterrestrial, otherworldly, ghosts or demons,
other dimension,
other dimensional, yeah, exactly, and how there was never like he had disappeared. Nobody knows what the hell happened to him. And so there's these guys they have throughout the wraparound who are like footage analyzers. They
they're
do special effects.
No, they're corridor crew.
Oh, so
Like
they're
I
real...
watch them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's actually a channel.
So
Corridor Digital.
So they're
Corridor
debunkers?
Digital
Is that what they do?
did Superman with a GoPro all those years ago.
Oh.
They're the guys that did that, and they did the Boston Dynamics robot video that tricked everyone. Like that's the video they reference in the movie.
Okay.
So they're an actual channel that puts out weekly videos. I watch their visual effects artist react series that they put out weekly, and so they have them in because they've done about 3 or 4 episodes of alien debunking videos.
That's what I was wondering.
Where they literally will take a 20-minute video and debunk like 3 different alien found footage, and they'll explain why it doesn't work because they're visual effects artists and they can see the tricks, they can see under the skirt, kind of thing. And so they put them in the movie trying to do that, and they can't really explain the footage that we get at the very end of the movie.
Very end of the movie, yeah. And there's 2 different camera angles that they apparently edit together to give the full effect and whatever. But this at least does, continue with the alien theme compared to, the dog episode and the other one with the robot Bollywood girl. So yeah, man, it just wasn't that satisfying of a payoff, and the wraparound, because they've had other ones with, was it like Rat-a-Tat or whatever, where the news people were referencing the damn thing and it was kind of popping up in some of the other segments. Not the case here, so less than satisfying wraparound and kind of interspersing with that main story. But I mean, another solid entry. These apparently are made relatively cheap, and they do good for Bloody Disgusting, who produced them.
They're basically annual at this point, almost. So.
Yeah, because what, 84 was the last one from like a year
94.
or 2 ago? 94.
94,
okay.
I think this one is definitely worth a watch.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, I feel like most of the segments were very strong and definitely are worth experiencing. The wraparound I could do without, and story number 2 I could do without, but otherwise 1, 3, 5, and 4 all very much worth your time.
Yeah.
All very much worth your time.
Yeah, I had positives from all of them. So there you go.
So there you go, guys. That's gonna complete our thoughts on VHS Beyond. We're not gonna break down the cinematography and all that for each segment. They all have their pluses and minuses. Just go and experience them yourself. But overall, those are our thoughts on VHS Beyond. So if you've seen the film, let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Again, it's available on Shudder right now. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And Gracias, Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.